Welcome back to Explaining Everything, the channel where we answer the questions you didn't even know you had. Today's question comes from one of our interested viewers, Spinning Tony 84. Thanks for the suggestion, Tony. You asked, who is the Ferris behind the Ferris wheel? Most of us have been on a Ferris wheel, but have we ever stopped to think, who is this Ferris guy? And what did he do to deserve an entire ride named after him? Well, buckle up, or I guess strap into your gondola, because we're going back in time to meet the man behind one of the world's most famous amusement rides. Right here on Explaining Everything. Let's talk about George Washington Gale Ferris, Jr. Yes, that was his full name. Imagine having to write that on every school test. No wonder he just went by Ferris. Ferris was born in 1859 in Illinois and later moved to Nevada. He studied engineering because some people build sandcastles as kids and others grow up wanting to reinvent how we spin humans in the sky for fun. As an engineer, Ferris specialized in designing steel bridges, which, if you think about it, makes total sense. A Ferris wheel is basically a bridge that forgot to be horizontal and decided to do a full loop instead. But his biggest claim to fame wasn't a bridge. It was something far more ambitious. The year was 1893, and Chicago was hosting the world's Columbian Exposition, aka the Chicago World's Fair. It was a massive event meant to celebrate 400 years since Columbus discovered America. Though, let's be real, plenty of people were already living here. But Chicago had a problem. They needed a show-stopping attraction to outdo the Eiffel Tower, which had been unveiled at the previous World's Fair in Paris. The Eiffel Tower was tall, elegant, and, at the time, the world's greatest flex in architecture. The Chicago Fair organizers were desperate for something just as iconic. They challenged American engineers to come up with a structure that would outshine Paris. Most engineers suggested, well, more towers. But Ferris? Ferris had a better idea. He wanted to build a giant rotating wheel that lifted people high into the sky for breathtaking views. The committee took one look at his proposal and basically said, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." They rejected his idea, calling it too dangerous and structurally impossible. Other engineers laughed at him, but Ferris was not backing down. Determined to prove everyone wrong, Ferris secured funding himself. He got $400,000, about $13 million today, from investors and assembled a team of top-notch engineers. The result? A masterpiece. The first ever Ferris wheel stood 264 feet tall, about 25 stories, had 36 massive gondolas, and could hold over 2,000 people at once. To put that into perspective, it was taller than the Statue of Liberty without her pedestal. This thing was a marvel of engineering. It could withstand Chicago's brutal winds, and unlike today's Ferris wheels, which have small enclosed capsules, Ferris's original wheel had train-sized wooden cabins complete with chairs, heating, and even waiters serving fancy meals inside. Yes, you heard that right. Early Ferris wheel riders weren't just taking a spin, they were fine dining in the sky. When the fair finally opened, people lost their minds. Thousands lined up, paying 50 cents per ride, about $15 today. For many, this was their first time seeing a city from above. There were no airplanes, no skyscrapers, no drones, just the Ferris wheel, lifting people higher than they had ever been before. It was the highlight of the fair, easily outshining everything else. Even the Eiffel Tower was probably side-eyeing it from across the Atlantic. Ferris had done it. He had changed amusement parks forever. Now, you'd think after inventing one of the most famous amusement rides in history, Ferris would be set for life, right? Unfortunately, not so much. Even though the Ferris wheel was a massive success, Ferris barely made any money from it. He got into legal battles over profits, and his investors withheld payments. To make things worse, his marriage fell apart, and his health declined. By 1896, just 3 years after his greatest achievement, Ferris died at only 37 years old, nearly bankrupt and largely forgotten. It was a tragic ending for a man who had given the world something so joyful. So, what happened to the original Ferris wheel? Well, after the Chicago Fair ended, it was moved to St. Louis for another expo. Then, in 1906, officials decided to get rid of it, not by dismantling it, not by preserving it in a museum, but by blowing it up with dynamite. Rude, but the idea? Unstoppable. Ferris wheels spread across the world. Today, they exist in almost every country, from tiny carnival rides to gigantic landmarks like the London Eye, 443 feet tall, the Singapore Flyer, 541 feet, and the Ain Dubai, a jaw-dropping 820 feet. Ferris's creation became a global icon, a symbol of fun, nostalgia, and that brief moment of panic when you realize you're stuck at the top. So, to answer today's question, George Ferris was a visionary. He took a wild idea, fought against doubt, and built something that has lasted for over a century. His wheel wasn't just an amusement ride. It was a symbol of human creativity and determination. Next time you're on a Ferris wheel, take a moment to appreciate the engineering genius behind it. Maybe even say, "Thanks, George," as you rise into the sky. And if you get stuck at the top for a bit, well, at least you've got a great view. If you loved this ride through history and learned something new about the inventor of that huge wheel ride, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.